understand one thing to be true, and I go to a lot of rallies and events, and I love this sign because it says, "We the people" means everyone. And we have to ensure that in this building, they understand that everyone means the people that are on these steps, means our families. It means people that identify as LGBTQ plus. It means every single Pennsylvanians, not just the Pennsylvanians who subscribe to a conservative ideology, this outdated idea that we're going to go backwards instead of going forward, but every single Pennsylvanian. It means that we have to come out here, we have to walk in there, we have to work within our neighborhoods and our communities to ensure that we have a Pennsylvania that works for everybody. No matter who you are, no matter who you love, no matter how you identify, no matter where you're from, this Commonwealth ought to work for everybody. Because
Everybody. The all-inclusive word to indicate all people. Today we are finally beginning to recognize the true meaning of everybody, equality. Every single person deserves to be treated the same as others. But history has shown us more than once that different groups of people have had to fight for equal treatment and rights. One of these groups includes the LGBTQ+ community. Members of the LGBTQ community have been fighting for rights for some time, dating all the way back to post-World War II. One of the most known LGBTQ movements of the 20th century is the Stonewall Riots. These riots served as what History.com would call a catalyst for the gay rights movement in the United States and around the world. Although very well known, this isn't the only instance of the community's fights. The LGBTQ community has been fighting against various things such as hate, oppression, discrimination, and even laws in order to gain the basic human rights that non-LGBTQ members have. Hate for the community and its members has been one of the biggest obstacles for members to overcome. The LGBTQ's biggest source of hate comes from the church. This doesn't necessarily involve all churches or certain denominations, but there are some who continue to openly show their disapproval for the community's lifestyle. This occurs throughout various states, but there are also specific instances of this occurring in Western Pennsylvania, as a Methodist church turned down the opportunity to conduct the celebration of homosexual marriage to keep a more traditional plan. Many agree that this was a good plan, but others believe that the church had missed an important opportunity that could have been used as the first stepping stone into breaking the divide between the church and the community. Another example of religion interfering in the life of LGBTQ members is the issue of private Catholic-owned agencies. In the city of Philadelphia, an agency named Catholic Social Services wanted to refuse consideration of same-sex couples as foster parents due to their religious stance. The city, wanting to prevent LGBTQ discrimination, stopped referring foster children and even almost refused to contract with the agency until they would consider same-sex couples. This became a case that made its way up to the Supreme Court, where the ruling was that the City of Philadelphia violates the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment, which prohibits laws to be made against the free exercise of religion. These are just a few examples of the church showing its disapproval of the LGBTQ community and the struggle of both sides fighting for what they believe is right. It is clear that there is still tension between the LGBTQ community and the church to this day. And tensions like this among non-LGBTQ members still affects the community outside of the church. Many don't realize the effects of oppression against the community. Cases like these instill fear of discrimination in members of the community. Fear of being denied healthcare, employment, housing, and adoption rights are just a few of the community's fears in their everyday lives. The community has even been forgot about during the pandemic. In structural transphobia, homophobia, and biphobia in public health practice, the example of COVID-19 surveillance, it is stated that not a single public health surveillance reporting system at any level in the United States has publicly recorded the impact of COVID-19 on sexual or gender minorities. This was written a year after the first reported COVID-19 case in the United States. This isn't the first occurrence of sexual and gender minorities being excluded from public health data, but the importance of it now is more prevalent than ever. This data can affect policies, programs, and funding related to communities affected by COVID-19. Pennsylvania is among the few states that are finally beginning to collect data that is not currently public yet. Pennsylvania's effort to include sexual and gender minority data can serve as an example to other states. While this showed signs of forward progress, the LGBTQ community now lacks COVID-19 specific data and doesn't know how or even if it affects the community. Aside from these reasons, LGBTQ members also face the chance of verbal and/or physical harassment from complete strangers. This discrimination doesn't occur exclusively in adults, but children too. Kids and teens must worry about bullying and harassment from their peers in their own place of learning that many of us may not see. The Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network shed light on this in From Teasing to Torment, a report on school climate in Pennsylvania, where they provide multiple stats, such as reasons why students are being bullied and how often homophobic comments are made in school. This figure shows the second biggest reason for students getting bullied in school is because of their sexual orientation. The next shows how often students have heard phrases using the word gay in a bad context. The Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network recommends that students need a safe environment. Many of these harassment issues go unreported due to the feeling that interventions were unlikely to occur or that the situation could worsen if records were made of the event. Intervention and protection from teachers can be what makes a child feel safe in their place of learning. Jared B. Colbert and peers detail this in Teachers' Perceptions of Bullying of LGBTQ Students in a Southwestern Pennsylvania Sample. It was found that teachers felt the least comfortable intervening with bullying regarding sexual orientation in comparison to any other special population. Other teachers fear being discriminated against due to intervening in the LGBTQ bullying incidents. There must be changes made to protect LGBTQ youth so they can feel safe in their place of learning. These examples show that not only do LGBTQ adults fear discrimination, but LGBTQ students and even faculty surrounding them do as well, proving just how much we have yet to overcome. Some will try and say the community pushes their agenda onto others. This isn't always the case. The community needs their voices to be heard to make changes. They need to fight. And this fight isn't unwarranted, as the community still faces so many discriminations. Many think that we have reached the peak of equality for the LGBTQ community when we have barely scratched the surface. The legalization of same-sex marriage in Pennsylvania hasn't even reached the 10-year mark, as it was legalized May 20th, 2014. All members of the community deserve to feel safe to be who they are. Protections must be made for the community. Thankfully, laws are finally being made to protect the community. In the Supreme Court case of Bostock v. Clayton County, it was ruled that Title VII protects LGBTQ+ workers from workplace discrimination, whether it be terminations, promotions, and other employee-related issues. This was a huge victory for LGBTQ community in Pennsylvania, since the Human Relations Act never specified protections based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Since this win, the Allegheny County Council has created a new Article 5 titled Human Relations Commissions, which establishes a county-wide non-discrimination requirement in housing, employment, and other contexts. It also provides a legal means of resolving such discrimination. The article provides 26 detailed definitions that are used throughout the writing and explains the specific protections against discrimination to those in the listed protected classes, such as sexual orientations and race, and gives examples of such discriminative practices. The article concludes by providing a detailed procedure section for any who may feel that they have been discriminated against in any of the ways listed, and lists the steps one must take to get the justice that they deserve. These are the steps that must be taken to ensure equality and protection for the community. While all these prove that progress is being made, the fight for absolute equality continues. There is still a lack of laws regarding multiple issues the community faces in Allegheny County and Pennsylvania as a whole. Pennsylvania's Equality Profile on the Movement Advance Project provides multiple graphs full of different laws and policies regarding LGBTQ rights. It provides different sections regarding to different laws made to protect the community and shows the lack of different laws for the community. The LGBTQ community has fought long and hard for their rights, and the fight won't end until they gain the protection from discrimination that they deserve, giving them the basic human rights that many else have, regardless of who they are or who they love.